understanding the value of having really good expertise and a good coach behind you can be super, super important when you're trying to make a good decision on stuff. And relying on your own expertise is a great way to just be stuck within the realm of what you're doing. What have you done for you? In fact, there's an interesting thing you talked about one time. You showed me a video of you doing some crazy thing on a motorcycle. I think you were jumping over like some Evel Knievel trench or something. And you told me you had a coach that you'd hired somebody as a coach to show you how to jump. Like, why did you go? I mean, you've been riding motorcycles for a long time. Why did you go hire a jumping coach?
Yeah. As crazy as that sounds. I mean, yeah, I've been riding since I was probably 8, but I mean, we can always improve. We can always learn new techniques. And at my age, I thought, gosh, I still love riding. I love riding.
I mean, your age of like 27, right? Like 39 years old now.
Yeah. I love riding. And I thought, for me to be able to prolong this, if I can learn maybe some advanced or new techniques that can give me more confidence, maybe create, more, just less chance of injury. So yeah, I knew there was a local pro. I reached out to him and said, hey, gosh, do you train? He said, honestly, I've raced all my years, but I've never really trained somebody. So I said, well, hey, let's try it out. We went out to the track, and he spent a couple hours with me, and it was awesome. I mean, the insight that he gave me. But what was probably the thing I learned the most from that, I actually held some of the skill set already, but I was I was kind of questioning myself. And so when we got out to the track, I rode the jumped it a couple times. He just watched, he observed. And because he had years and years of experience, when I went around the track and he watched me and he said, your technique's fine. He goes, you just need to gas it. You just need to go. Okay.
Just go.
You just need to go faster.
You know what you need to know.
You're not clearing that jump because you're not going fast enough. And so had he not been there, I probably would have just kept kind of doubting myself and just being a little bit more reserved. But because I trusted him and I knew that he'd done 1,000 times and he wasn't going to give me bad advice. So here he is observing me and he says, no, you've got it. Go ahead. Just give it a little more. And so because of his advice, my trust in him, I did.
Okay, so I got to ask you.
Ended well.
Wait, that one ended well.
Ended smooth. And again, I thought I wouldn't have done that had he not watched me and then with his wisdom and his know-how been able to say, just go ahead.
So when you were like, okay, I'm going to really just go for it. The first time that you really did that, was that terrifying? Was it scary? Do you remember?
Well, the first time after he said,
just give it, just let it go. Just go for it.
Let go of your purse and go ahead and gas it. I mean, honestly, I don't think I just went and did it. I still had a little trepidation. I still wasn't myself. I still doubted myself and doubted the system. But I think that is kind of that's the definition of a coach. I mean, someone that knows more than I know, someone that has extensive experience, and someone that can observe and see what I'm doing or what I'm not doing, what I need to be doing, and then make that suggestion and tell me what I need to do to correct something. Because I mean, I've had that same experience in real estate. I've had coaches that have sold 200, 300, 500 homes in a year. And so when they tell me what to do
this, do that,
I listen because I know they're doing it. But if I went to a coach that had just read a real estate book and never actually practiced what I'm doing, I don't know that I'd have the same conviction to follow what they're telling me to do.
Well, I think about that in just the business world in general or life. I mean, I know a lot of people who are life coaches, right? And some of them are incredibly well qualified and really know what they're doing and have had experience and years of experience. But sometimes when I hear people say, oh, I'm going to be a life coach, I just go, okay, well, what's your background and experience? Is your life one that I want to live?
Yep.
If you're a life coach, is your life one that I want to live? Do I want to live my life like you? Do I want my life to look like yours? And maybe I look at that wrong. It's not like Bill Belichick was the world's greatest quarterback, but there was a bunch of coaches behind him that were specifically on that avenue for, he who shall not be named. Tom, talk about it, right?
And I don't know.
Tom Brady? Wasn't Belichick his coach? Am I making that up in my head? Yeah. right? See, I know things.
Guys don't watch football.
I know sports stuff.
We follow a little more on the motocross side of
so
things.
you've heard of this guy named Tom Brady once or twice. So his coach, but you don't have to be the world's greatest quarterback to coach the quarterback, I don't think. But I think you have to have the experience in the game.
But how many people has he coached?
Yeah.
How many games has he?
How many thousands of hours
games has he coached
watched?
that they've won?
Rather than just saying, I'm going to do this thing now and I'm going to be a coach now. And whether you're like proclaiming yourself as a coach or you're just holding yourself out as an advisor for something, I think a lot of people try and put themselves into that position because they want to do that. It's aspirational, but maybe they don't have the experience yet to really guide people in the right way. And then when people start taking that advice, I see people make pretty terrible decisions with their money or their life when they're just falling down the wrong path because they picked the wrong coach. They picked the wrong person to follow. So I think it's valuable if you're going to have somebody that's going to guide you or coach you through whatever it may be, like, is the way they're living their life the way I want to live my life? Is the way they're spending their money the way I want to spend their money? Like this guy, the way he was riding that bike, that's the way you want to ride the bike. So you could do exactly what he said and you knew you're going to get that outcome.
Yep.
But if somebody hasn't kind of blazed that path already, I'm really reluctant to just take their advice because I don't necessarily want to go where they've gone. I want to go somewhere great, not just an aspirational. Maybe you might get somewhere great if you listen to this thing because I read a book and it said you'll be awesome if you do.
Well, and there's various things that you get from a coach. I mean, I've had coaches over the years where I already knew what I needed to do, but I needed someone to hold me accountable. I remember this very clearly. This was probably 15 years ago that I hired a coach, and I learned what accountability meant. He said, I want you to write me 5 checks, and each check I want you to write it for $1,000. And at the time, I mean, $1,000 was still $1,000, but I didn't want to lose $1,000. I think I was, buying diapers and toys for kids and such. So
different stage of life.
If I told my wife that I lost $5,000, she wouldn't have been happy with me. But anyway, this coach committed me to, what my goals were. If you're going to make X amount of calls, if you're going to go on X amount of appointments, then write me a check. And if you don't go on those, then I'll go ahead and send that check to your worst competitor.
So it wasn't even going to keep it.
So it wasn't going to him, and it wasn't going to a charity. It was going to go to my competitor. And I learned real quick. Okay, yeah. I mean, had he just said, "Hey, write that to Primary Children's or write that to whatever benefit," then I probably would have even kind of got a little bit slippery and just thought, it's going to a good cause.
Going to a good cause. Anyway.
Yeah, I guess that's okay. I guess I could justify that. But I did not want that check going to my competitor at the time.
That's aggressive.
And so when I said, "Hey, look, I'm gonna talk to 50 people a day, or I'm gonna go on X amount of appointments that month," that's what he wrote down. And if when we had our next call, if I hadn't met that, check was mailed off.
Did he ever mail the check?
Didn't mail a check.
You were not going to let that check go.
But again, I learned what true accountability was. And I learned from another coach. This is kind of a cool story. He taught me accountability on another level where he said, look, if you got a call from a radio station, they said you just won $1 million. And they said, you have got to come in the morning and claim your prize. And you've got to be here at 7:00 a.m. and we'll issue the check. But if you come in after 7 a.m., no go, void. Well, what would that look like? What would that look like the morning of? Maybe even the night before. Would you go get a hotel across the street from the radio station?
Yeah. You can do everything you possibly can.
Would you sleep in your car out front of the railroad, the radio station? Early. Yeah, I mean, would you, if the radio station was in Salt Lake and I live in Farmington, 15, 20 minutes away, would I, jump in my car 20 minutes, 30, 25 minutes before 7:00 and whistle on down to Salt Lake? Gosh, what would happen if there was an accident? What would happen? I mean, what does that look like? Would I get out of my car and would I start running down the freeway to find another car that was not backed up? Would I just run all the way down? I mean, you start looking at things. You're like, what are you committed to? What does that commitment level really look like? And I thought I probably would have been sleeping out in my car next to that door with a string tied to my arm. And when they opened up, it, woke me up. So yeah, I mean, I think there's different levels of commitment. And just recent, I just hired a new coach. I kind of realized that I was getting a little slippery. I was getting a little complacent. I was making decent amount of money, but sometimes money isn't the motivator. Sometimes that's not the reason that gets you up in the morning and gets you fired up. And so kind of ironically, it was actually my son that kind of said, "Hey, gosh, Dad, they're doing a seminar in California again with your old real estate coach that you used to follow. Do you want to go with me?" So we went down and I got excited anyway, I signed back up, but it's crazy. Just in the last few weeks since I've signed up, I've felt this shift, and it's invigorating.
That's
invigorating.
Great.
I mean, it's like
just having somebody new that's going to provide that accountability and direction.
Yeah, I've got a coach that's going to call me every Wednesday at 2:00. We're going to talk for a half hour. We're going to talk about some goals, but he's going to ask me about what I committed to last week. But he's also going to give me new things to think about. I mean, he's a coach in New Jersey. He's selling real estate. He sells 200 plus homes a year. So I've got someone that's of value that I'm going to be able to get some real substance from,
substance out of.
But I love the accountability part. But it just shifted something in my head. Like, all right, I've put some money out. I pay $1,000 a month for this coach. I might as well practice it.
Make it work.
Yeah. So instead of waking up at 9:30 in the morning and kind of just heading off to the gym, I mean, it's fun. It's like, hey, I got to get up at 7:50. I got to get on the phones. I got to do some follow up. It's just it's kind of a what do you call it? A rebirth.
Sure. Recommitment.
Yeah. And I think we all need that. I think, I mean, have you had nutritionists or anything like that?
You know what I think for me, what I've found more is mentors, but it's the same thing, right? Finding somebody who's kind of gone down the path before, who's accomplished what it is that I wanted to do. And somebody told me this one time, and it stuck in my head, that you can reverse engineer success. And I've thought a lot about that. I thought, okay, well, I can reverse engineer success and I can reverse engineer failure. So I can look at what brought somebody to a place that wasn't very desirable. And I can say, well, what did you do? Like, what were the steps that you took that took you off the path you were going and brought you somewhere else? Okay, well, I'm not going to do that. And then you can also look and say, okay, you got to where I want to go. What did you do 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and where am I at on that path? And then it's really easy.
Yeah.
I don't know that it requires a great deal of creativity to be successful. I think you just have to be willing to look at what somebody else did that worked really well and then just apply it to yourself. And that's what I've done more in my career, and what I'm looking at is just look for people who could be a mentor, and then just pattern. Just look at the pattern recognition. What have they done that worked really well? And then, flip on the other side. What did somebody do that really did not work out for them?
Yeah.
And
so have you had a lender mentor, someone that did what you do, that you kind of saw what they...
That's a good question.
I mean, have you had someone that you emulated your business after?
I really didn't. I started in the lending world with a buddy of mine in college. He was a mortgage loan officer, and I was working full time for a company. And I was looking at what he was doing, and he wasn't the most hardworking guy I'd ever met in my life. He was a great friend, but he was pretty lazy. And I was working a bunch of hours, and I thought, man, this guy's working like a fifth as much as I am, and he's making more money. What is he doing? So same thing. I looked at, what are you doing that I could be doing differently? So we just started doing it together. And I ended up learning a lot through just the School of Hard Knocks. I learned most of what I knew through making mistakes and then trying to see what can I do different next time, or seeing somebody else's mistakes and avoiding it. So I really didn't have the benefit in my career on the loan world of looking at somebody else who was doing really well directly and being like, okay, I'm going to follow in your path. I had to kind of create that.
So the only thing that I would probably
books,
say,
reading and experience.
Yeah, the only thing I'd maybe say with that, if you had a coach, if you had a mentor that had, been doing, I don't know what levels, 100 loans a year. I don't know what the numbers are that lenders do.
Doing great transactions.
Yeah. I mean, if you had that type of person that you could have emulated and followed, would that have expedited your life's experience?
Huge. I could have shaved 15 years off my learning curve. And, it worked out okay, but it definitely was a harder grind, and I made mistakes that I didn't need to make.
So the hard knocks, I mean, you'll learn it.
You'll learn. Maybe, right? You'll beat your head against a wall enough times, and you'll stop hitting your head against a wall. But it took a lot longer. And I look back at what I've done. I've trained a lot of people in the loan officer world, and I've seen people who have found success that took me 15 years that have found it in 3. And, it's not that I gave them any golden ticket. It's just I knew what I was doing, and I could say, okay, well, don't say that, say this. Don't do that, do this. And the acceleration of what I've seen people accomplish is really good, which, same thing with real estate. When I was investing in real estate, the first couple of investments I did were terrible. I didn't know what I was doing. And so I learned from that how not to do it, and then just kind of got better and better at it over time. And so now when I talk to people that are wanting to get into buying a rental property or something, I can say, okay, well, here's what not to do. And then here's the things you should do that are going to work out better. And it makes a big difference for the outcome that they get. They don't have to go through the grind. And that's, I think, the thing I've learned is you don't have to learn everything on your own. You don't have to learn it through the School of Hard Knocks like I did a lot of the ways. Getting somebody who knows where they're going and can guide you there is so much faster. And it might cost a little bit of money, but the money and the time that it saves you is just so worth it.
Well, and one thing I can add is not only finding a coach, finding a life coach or whatever you're
whatever your
practicing.
flavor
If
is.
you're wanting to go run my son who lives in St. George called me the other day and said he's going to do an Ironman. He sure as heck isn't going to call me as a coach because
you're not the Ironman.
Never done one. But a couple of years back, my other son Jordan, we wanted to go to a nutritionist and a trainer for fitness and for getting all,
you're gonna get all swole.
Exactly, get all cut and ripped, beach body. But we went and we signed up for it, and the guy that we went to was well qualified. We'd been referred to him by handful of people. But I remember distinctly going and kind of fighting it a little bit, like almost as if like I knew more, or not necessarily knew more, but I didn't want to commit to. He wanted us to count macros. He wanted us to input everything we ate in FitnessPal, a fitness app, and that's not how I'm wired. I don't love spreadsheets. I don't love
that was probably you
writing down everything I do. So I didn't commit fully. I went and we went every week, and I ate a little healthier. I tried to eat cleaner, if you will. But my son Jordan, he embraced it. I mean, he took every word that guy said as gospel. I mean, he counted his calories. He weighed the food. I mean, I'd look over at him and he's weighing his blueberries and he's weighing everything out. And I'm like, oh geez, just eat cleaner. All right. Just don't eat pizza. Just eat, but no, he measured it. And month after month as we'd go, you could see the results. You could see the lack of results. I was maybe losing a little weight, but Jordan, he was metamorphosizing in front of us. I mean, he was getting bigger. He was getting leaner. Like we'd go to the gym and people would say, Jordan, man, you look amazing. What do wow. You best.
Well, I see you go, hey, Ryan.
He was following the system, right?
I like that.
He was following, he was trusting the system where if you're going to hire a coach, that's one big step, saying, I want to level up. I want to do something more. But if you're going to go to the coach,
better do what they say.
Follow it. So, fast forward 2 years now, I've signed up again.
You're back in.
And
are you counting your macros?
And I'm with the coach, and I am weighing the food, and
nice.
I am counting the calories, and I've got my FitnessPal, and every morning, all throughout the day, I'm inputting what I eat, and I'm actually seeing the results, and they're just slight. So every 2 weeks we go, and I've lost 2 pounds of fat.
A little bit.
Next week, I've lost 2 pounds of fat. But it's crazy because when I get on the scale's the same. So if I didn't have the trainer and I wasn't trusting the system, I'd get on the scale and I'd be ticked because I'd get on there and I'd go, you still weigh 185, you fat dog. I mean, this ain't working. And I'd start eating pizza again, or I'd just throw in the towel. But because I'm following the system, trusting it and following it, I'm seeing these incremental results. And he said, hey, no, just stay with the system and you'll get leaner and leaner each week. So,
well, it's like your motorcycle. You wouldn't have known what to do. You do the one little thing and suddenly it gives you the outcome you want, but you wouldn't have been able to gauge it on your own. Yeah.
Whether it's real estate, whether it's lending, whether it's,
just living your life.
I think it's
whatever that goal may be.
It's trusting. It's number one. I think you have to just decide. Some people just don't ever even want to hire a coach. I mean, how many people do you know that they've never even hired a coach for anything?
Well, you wouldn't think about it unless you've done it and seen somebody else do it. I think a lot of people, or they just go down the path of least resistance, and they bring in the wrong mentor, the wrong coach, and they get to the wrong place.
Yeah.